So you've clicked this video because you want to learn how to start and scale your own Airbnb business. I can help you on the two conditions. Number one, you watch the full video to the end. Number two, you actually take notes. I can give you the information, but if you're not going to take it all in, then it's pointless watching any further from here. Who am I to be giving out advice? Well, if you don't know me, my name is Ali. You might have seen me on the internet before under the name of Ashi. I started Airbnb about 6 months ago. I've already managed to get over 20 properties. I'm going to give you the formula and the strategy that I use to be able to scale so quickly in such a short amount of time. Why, out of all of these different business models, should you choose Airbnb? The reason I chose Airbnb is for a few different reasons. Number one, it's so easy to scale up very quickly. Once you have the knowledge, you just rinse and repeat and you keep going and going and going, and your profit just carries on. Number two, the barrier to entry is not that high. Obviously, if you're going to be taking on property straight away, you need a bit of cash flow for that. But there's other ways of starting out property for absolutely zero. Number three, once you have the systems in place, it doesn't take that long. You can have a successful Airbnb company up and running within a few weeks. And then it's just a bit of management on the side. It takes a few hours of your week. It's really not that much of a headache. For example, you might have to reply to a few messages of Airbnb, booking.com every now and then. You might have to make a few phone calls with customers. You might have to go fix this, fix that. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot less work than a standard 9 to 5, and it's a lot less work than most of these other business models. At this current moment, I've been doing it for 6 months. I already have a couple of employees under me. I delegate tasks, and that allows me to have so much more free time. So just open your mind as to how quickly you can grow this business and to what extent you can take this. But this all depends on how much work and time you are willing to put in. The first thing we're going to touch upon is how to find a good deal and then close them. When you're finding a property, analysis is the most important thing you need to do. You need to make sure that the property you want to take on makes sense. You want to look at the location. You want to look at what the competitors are doing. You want to look at the pricing. All of these things are going to factor in how profitable this unit actually is. Obviously, this is going to need a property for you to do the analysis on. To find the properties is simple. There's a few different websites, whether it's Zoopla, Rightmove, Facebook groups, Gumtree. Rightmove, I believe, has about 86% of the market share. Me personally, I've had most success with Zoopla, but each to their own. When you call them, it's simple. What you're going to be speaking to them about is a company-let agreement. Not all companies are going to say yes to this, because at the end of the day, they don't want somebody to be making money off them. You have to know what you say, but you don't want it to seem like you're reading a script. You just want to be yourself, be polite, give them the reasons why it is better than having a normal tenant. Some reasons that you can give. Because you are a company, it's much easier for them to kick you out if you don't pay rent. Obviously, you're going to be paying the rent, but you're just going to give them hypothetical scenarios. But two, it's much better for them cost-wise. As you're a company, you're going to want to have the property in pristine condition. You have people coming in and out, any damages, any smells, anything negative, you're going to be the one facing the consequences. You're going to be the one that's going to have the negative reviews on the websites. So obviously, you want a clean property. Let the landlord know this. Any minor maintenance that needs doing, little bits of TLC here and there, say that you're going to be covering this. This is definitely not something that the average tenant does, so make yourself stand out. The third thing you can say to them is that you have cleaners. Every property, you're going to need a cleaning team. This is obviously because in between each check-in and check-out, you're going to want to clean up. When the landlord knows this, they know that you are going to be keeping on top of the maintenance. At the end of the day, they're happy that their big asset is going to be well looked after. The second way to find the property is through your own personal network. It might not be your closest friends. It might not be your direct mother or father, but there's going to be someone within your circle that has a property. Whether it's distant relatives, distant family and friends, anyone you know on social media, if they have a property and they're willing to get rid of it, take it. When I mean get rid of it, you're not purchasing, you're just going to be renting from them. This way, you cut out the middleman of the agencies, you cut out the fees, you already have a direct relation with them, trust you, you trust them, happy days for everyone. The third way of finding a property is through a source. What a sourcer is somebody that finds a deal, finds a profitable deal, comes with all the data to people like me or anyone else that's not got the time to be looking for themselves, and they sell them that package. These sources make anywhere between £2,000 to £3,000 per sale. Most people, when they're starting out property, this is the way that they go down. Because sourcing is a whole the income in itself, it is tied to property. So what they do, they find a property, they sell one, two, and now they've got enough to start their own Airbnb journey. Just today whilst recording, I've made £10,000 just by sourcing properties for other people. One of those things you can't really avoid in the industry. To get a property, you need it sourced. You either source it for yourself or somebody's sourcing it for you. And if you want to make a bit more income, you can source for other people as well. A little bonus tip for you lot, if you already have an existing landlord, best thing to do that I do is leverage them. Ask do you have any other properties available? Even if it's in a different city, the fact that it's with the same landlord, most of the time you'll be able to get a nice deal because you've already got that relationship with them. Trust in this game is everything. With that trust, obviously they're going to be a lot more likely to work with you. You've already built that track record with them. Not only is it good for them, but it's good for you. Having multiple properties with the same landlord saves you so much time, money, and effort. When you found the property, now you need to get the data from it. You go on websites like AirBnB, Property Market Intel, and you can get a good general feel of how the property is going to. What are the sort of things you're going to be looking at? You're going to be looking at the location and the demand. You're going to be looking at the competition. You're going to be seeing what the competitors are doing. Because the easiest way to plan out what your profits are going to look like is by looking at similar other properties. If there's anyone else doing Airbnb in the area, you can look at what they're doing, get a general feel of the area. You have a look at the average nightly rate versus the rent. Obviously, you're going to want the average nightly rate to be higher than your average nightly spend. That way, you're always going to end up in profit. Then you're going to want to look at what the costs are going to look like. Your water bill, electricity, gas. I don't really like to go for properties that are using gas. Why? Because gas is a lot more expensive. Most modern apartments use electricity. You want to find out what the Wi-Fi is going to be. The cleaning bill. Cleaning is something that many people forget to incorporate into their costs. If you don't have the right cleaners, that bill alone can make or break the business. You want to look at the seasonality. How well is the property going to do in summer versus the winter? If the property is not going to be doing well in the winter, how can you maximize the summer? All of this data you can find a general feel for on these websites. Obviously, to work out your profits is pretty simple. What's your rent? What are your expenses? Add them together. Take it away from the revenue generated, that's your profit at the end. Let's say now you found the property, it's got good numbers, now you want to book a viewing. When you go to this viewing, you want to be presentable. You want to look nice, smart, presentable. Don't go overkill, don't go too much. Smart casual is all you need. This sort of outfit, I've got a random white t-shirt, or what you want to call this, a jumper, a blazer, some jeans and some trainers, it's all you need. What strategy should you use once you find a property? So there's 3 different types of strategies. Short-term rentals, long-term rentals, then the HMOs. With the short-term rentals, it's very seasonal dependent. The best properties for short-term rentals are the ones that are slap bang in the city centre or anywhere near any sort of attraction. The long-term strategy, this is where you have the same tenant in for a longer duration of time, anywhere between 1 year and a couple of years. The location of this property doesn't have to be slap bang in the city centre, but you also don't want it to be in the middle of nowhere. Put yourself in the consumer's point of view. Are you going to want to stay somewhere that's in the middle of nowhere, not close to any buses, not close to a train station? You're probably not gonna. A HMO is a house of multiple occupants. Typically, you see most students living in a HMO. It's just a house with multiple different rooms that's got different people in them, and you're renting out each room separately. Typically, these are next to universities, close to city centers. Each of these strategies has its pros and cons for different things. Short-term rentals is great for cash flow. Because you've got people coming in and out all the time, you're going to be making more profit because you can charge more for the night. Long-term, similar to short-term, but the tenancies are a bit longer. You can't charge as much as the short-term rentals, but the rent is more guaranteed. For HMOs, your price is going to fluctuate. You're going to have a set price each month of what that house is bringing you in. Whether it's 1,500, 2,500, you know at the end of the month that there's no risk. You're going to get this number no matter what. So it's good to have a portfolio and diversify. Me personally, for every 8 to 10 units, I get one HMO. This way, my risk is diversified, and the short-term rentals that are not doing too well sometimes, the profits from the HMOs and the long-term rentals, they can offset those losses. The short-term rentals is going to bring in more revenue in that month, so your overall profit is still high. Now we're going to get onto the legal side of things. When you're doing short-term rentals, you need to check in the area that you're in if you need a license. Not every area is going to need a license, but you need to do your own checks. For long-term rentals, you are going to have to run under a company. It's very easy to make. You just go onto the government website, make a limited company, pay about £30 I think, and there you have it. A business name, a business bank account, that's very easy to set up as well. One of the pros of opening a business is that most of your expenses you can claim through the business. I'm not an accountant, but every expense that you do have on the business, you can claim against the business. For example, staging. When you're staging a property, when you're buying furniture, doing XYZ, you can put it through the business. That way you're saving a bit on tax. Now the most important thing in the legal aspect, the contracts. When you're renting out, it can't be under a normal rental agreement. It has to be under a company-let agreement. This way you're legally allowed to sublet the property. When speaking with a landlord, what I typically go for is a 3-year agreement. With the break clause, I typically do it within 3 months. So that allows me, in the first 3 months, I'm allowed to review the business, I'm allowed to review that property property. If it's doing well, I'm going to keep it. If not, you're legally allowed to cut the contract. And the best thing about this break clause is that if it is an unprofitable deal, all I have to do, take all the furniture and put it into another property. This way you save yourself without having to pay any unnecessary rent. Once you've got the property, you've spoken to the landlord, everyone's happy, now it's time to sign the contracts. It's best and in your best interest if you can make the contract. This way you know exactly what's on that piece of paper. Quite often in this industry, people get misled and mistreated because of the unfortunate mistake that they haven't read the contract properly. If for whatever reason the landlord is insisting you have to use their contract, then what you need to do is get a professional checked. The most important thing in this whole business is making sure that the customers are happy. You might have heard the saying, the customer is always right. That goes for any sort of business, especially in the hospitality game. Your end goal out of every single guest that walks into your property is to get that 5-star review. The first thing is preparation of the unit. When you've gone to go view the property, you would have already seen what condition the property is in, whether it needs some touches up of paint on the wall, whether it needs a few new door handles. You need to make sure all of it works. Check the windows, check for any damp. All of these things you need to iron out before. If there's any big issues, any big plumbing problems, any big molds found in any of the bedrooms, you need to report that back to the landlord as soon as possible, because you don't want to be stuck with a big bill at the end. The things I'm willing to do are a little bit of touches up of the paint. The most I would do is replace a carpet if it was within my budget. Per property, I wouldn't really invest more than £7,000 to £8,000. This includes the rent, the deposit, and the general staging of the property. Whether it does need some paint, that's going to include the beds, it's going to include the mattresses, it's going to include the sofa beds. Everything is going to be included within that price. When the customer is staying at your property, they're going to have much more peace of mind when they know there's good security. There's a couple different ways of going about this, but you want to go for the most efficient and secure way. As a property host, you want things to run in the background seamlessly without having to put too much work. When the guests are checking in, you want it to be a smooth process. There's a couple different ways of going about this. You can implement lock boxes in front of the property. When the guest is checking in, on the booking app that they use, you can add the codes so then they can put the code in and collect the keys. If the building that you're going to use doesn't allow lock boxes, then the next best thing is smart locks. These smart locks are door handles, so all you have to do is replace all door handles, put the new smart lock in, and you give them a pin. This gives the customer much more peace of mind knowing that they are the only person that has access to that property. Some of my properties do in fact have ring doorbells. This is a great way to see who's coming in and out of the property, whether people are going to be doing naughty stuff, whether they're going to be having parties. You as the business owner have full peace of mind. You can go on the app, check, see who's coming in. Noise detection sensors are also another great tool to use. You stick them on the ceiling and it's very seamless. You can't really see it. This way you can see if there is someone being a bit too loud. All you have to do is text them and your problem sorted. For a customer to have a great experience, one of the things that's important is to have good Wi-Fi. Customers don't want to have to load onto the Netflix, spend half an hour for it to buffer. You're just going to get a bad review. Make sure your Wi-Fi is fast. Go on your phone, type in what is the best network in this area. The last thing you want is a customer to be cold, giving you headache, and now it's not a seamless business that you want it to be. When you have a property and you're listing it, it's important that it's got a lot of supplies and amenities. This is what's going to make your property stand out from the rest. In every single one of my properties, there comes shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes, towels, everything that someone needs to spend the night is accommodated for. If your property comes with a washing machine, make sure to supply the liquid, make sure to supply the powder for that. You want to make sure your guest is impressed in every single way. Having coffee, tea, biscuits in the property goes a long way. These little touches makes the guests feel more at home. For design tips, it's easy. You can go on Pinterest, go on other short-term rentals, other long-term rentals that are in the area and see what they're doing. Go through their pictures. Their pictures are online for everyone to see. You can use that and implement that into your own property. If you have a bigger budget, then you can hire somebody. Interior designers at the end of the day are good at what they do. Paying someone that has the knowledge that you don't have is only really going to increase the amount of revenue you can generate. Because you might think that this painting looks nice, but when you put it in an Airbnb, other people might not have the same taste as you. One thing I would recommend is don't go for that boldish of a color. Most of my accommodations follow the same scheme. Neutral tones, a bit of color, but not too much. This ensures that anybody that stays in a property is going to like what it looks like. When designing a property, you want to prioritize comfort and finally, before you are to launch your property, you need to test the unit. Spend a couple nights in the room yourself. Get your family, your friends, anybody that you know to come spend a couple nights. That way you can see if the Wi-Fi really works, if the beds are as comfy as you think, if the water runs. Every single property that I have, I spend at least 2 nights in. This way, any major problems that I think I'm going to face, I can iron them out straight up. To make the guest's life easier, what I do is I make a welcome and brochure. This goes through all of the close public transport, all of the local attractions. It's got the Wi-Fi codes in it. Everything that the customer is going to want to know is inside that booklet. Any food recommendations, I give them there. The main point is you want to make your customer's life as easy as possible. Not only that, I put the house rules as well. They can see what the quiet hours are. They can see where to put the rubbish, the check-in, the check-out time. Everything is there, easily accessible for the guest to read. When you're listing a property, there's many different platforms to use. Booking.com, Airbnb, VRBO. The more websites that you're on, the more eyes you have to your property, the more likely you are of making sales. The majority of your sales are going to be off Airbnb and Booking.com, but don't let that fool you. You still are going to get quite a lot of bookings on other platforms, which is why you need to be on every single one. When you are listing the property, you want to make sure you are optimizing every single set. Have a play about with the title. Maybe you add the word cozy central modern apartment. All of these things are going to differentiate you from your competitors. Get good photography. There's been times in the past where at the start of my journey, I've used iPhone photography. As soon as I switched over to professional photography, my revenue skyrocketed. Why? Because if it looks more professional, there's a higher chance you land the sale instead of other people. You need to make yourself stand out. How many times have you stopped yourself from buying something online just because the picture wasn't that good? It's probably happened to you a fair few times. This business is nothing different. For the listing descriptions, you want to make sure every single little thing is listed. You want to make it as easy to read and as nice to read as possible. When your property goes on these websites, it's going to have a ranking. To increase those rankings, there's a lot of different things you can do. One of them is ranking hacking. You can get your friends, your family to stay. You can get them to make sure they leave you a good review. Even though it's not really a real customer, they are still staying in the property and they still can leave you a review. You'd be surprised how much of an impact this makes to your property. 3 to 5 of those significantly increases the search rate of that property. Because when people are booking, they are going to be reading the reviews. They're going to want to make sure that the person that they're staying with has a good reputation, that they're not just going to get scammed. Speaking of family and friends, you need to use your personal network. If your friends want to have a party in the city, you can offer it to them. If you've got family coming over from abroad, you can offer them the property. There's so many different events, so many different things that you could offer them this property for. Another way of getting customers is by outreach. This really helped me at the start of my journey. When I would call companies asking them, do you have work going on in this city? If you do, here's my number, take it, I'll give you a nice discount. Another tip, go to hotels in the local area. They've got vans there, parked. Leave a business card on the window. Call up the number on the side of the van. Make yourself known to everyone. At the beginning, you might not want to do it. It is a bit of work, but at the end of the day, if you want to get paid, you need to do it. Offer them incentives, offer them discounts, offer to accommodate them no matter what. The best part about getting these companies is that more than likely they're going to be a return customer. Vetting your guests. Not every guest that steps in your property is going to be a good one. They might even potentially damage your property, which is why it's very important. Before each guest, you need to vet. Get their personal details. Ask for pictures of licenses. This way you have full proof that it is this person staying in the property. And if anything bad does happen, you know exactly who to claim it against. Make sure that you're getting the reviews no matter what. If it's a good review, you need to squeeze it out of the... After every guest that stays in my property, they get an automated message. It's literally just a simple follow-up message, hoping that they had a good stay. And if they are ever in the area again, I give them a discount. This discount is going to lead them to book directly with me. So that way I can avoid paying the commissions on these websites. Not only that, I say, if you leave me a review, you can be honest and I'll give you a good discount. When you offer them an incentive like that, more than likely they're going to give you that review. Finally, you need to flip your issues into wins. What do I mean by that? A couple of weeks ago, I've had an issue in one of my flats. The customer said that the bedding is not too great or they weren't too happy with it. As your host, it's within your best interest that the guest has the best possible time. What did I do? I ordered them some new sets and I got it delivered to them within half an hour. This then switched their problem into a win for me because they saw how quickly I was able to act to the problem. I was able to solve their headache, meaning they're more than likely going to give me a good review now and they're going to come back again. Customer service is one of the most important things in this industry. You want to be as hospitable as possible. Now we're on to the management and how you want to structure it. In order for the business to run smoothly, you need everything to be systemized. Your business is going to need somebody running it, whether that's yourself, a manager, a virtual assistant once you reach about 10 properties. That way your workload is going to be much less. As the general manager yourself, you need to train that virtual assistant to work exactly the same as work on their responses. How do they respond to certain questions? Give them the correct training and advice and they'll be able to run your operation smoothly. The last thing you want to happen is a customer to come in and there's hairs everywhere, there's rubbish not taken out, there's unclean dishes. You're going to get the headache that you don't want. If you find the right cleaners, if you build a good relationship with the cleaners, not only can they do the cleaning for you, they can also do a bit of maintenance work for you. All of my cleaners, alhamdulillah, know what they're doing. in and they're very good. If I have any problems in the flat, because personally, I don't live in the cities that all of my flats are in, I can just ask the cleaner to go do something quickly. Okay, now let's say something big goes on, that's when you would need someone specific to that job, whether it be a plumber, an electrician, those sorts of people. They're quite easy to find. Your friends yourselves might be those type of people. Reach out to people in those cities that you have your properties in. Get a good network going. Get a solid team. So if anything does go wrong, you have the right network and they can solve the problem quickly. One problem that you might face with your properties is having double bookings. That's why it's so important to have a channel manager. Apps such as Smoothboot. This allows you to see all of your bookings. It blocks out the dates that someone already has a booking on. If someone books on Airbnb, it's going to block out that date straight away so that someone else can't come and book it on the same day. Without that channel manager, you would have two people that are going to the same property at the same time, which is obviously a headache because you're going to have to reaccommodate them, which costs money. You're going to have to give them the refund, which is also more money. Now you're double the amount that you should be out of pocket. I can give the cleaners direct access to the calendar. They can see what days that the changeovers are happening and they can go automatically without me even having to text them. That's why systemization is so important, because I can have a full operation happening without me even having to text. Your spreadsheets are important. You need to make sure you're doing those every single month. You need to add your profits, your losses. You need to add every single guest that's checking in, the booking amount, what date, what platform that they used. This way, the more data you have, the more you can refine properties, tweak descriptions, maximize your listing. Without those sheets, you wouldn't be able to. One tip I would give you is to hire as you scale. At the beginning, your funds are not going to be that big. You won't be able to outsource people to do the jobs for you. But as your business grows, as the amount of properties you have increase, it's smart and very wise for you to go and start outsourcing. This decreases your workload and increases the amount of time you have to yourself. I would pay my staff under a wage, not under a commission. It doesn't make sense for you as a cash flow business to start paying people based on commissions. Commission can vary, meaning your profits and losses can vary on each month. If you have a clear wage at the start, no matter how little or how much work they have to do, they get paid the same, which is fair for you and for them, so everyone's happy. The difference between a company that does £10,000 a month and £100,000 a month is just how they scale. When you're looking to scale your company, it's important that you use the right systems first and then look to start scaling. If you don't have the right systems, it's going to be impossible for you to scale. Make sure that everything is already running smoothly. It allows you that breathing room to start increasing the amount of workload that you bring. Get all your cleaners, get all of your employees all on the same page. Get them to a point that you don't really have to have any access to them and the work still gets done. Once they start overachieving, that is when you know it's a good time to increase the workload, because you know that they can handle it. The last thing that you want to do is get too many properties too quickly and your cleaners can't deal with it. Your maintenance team can't deal with it. Now you have more problems than you have success. And to scale, really, the only thing you have to do is get more properties by building a good relationship with people that you already interact with. Whether it's landlords, agencies, sourcing agents, be friendly to everyone. What goes around comes around. If you're nice to these landlords, more than likely they're going to come back to you and offer you their properties. If you're nice to this sourcing agent, more than likely he's going to keep working for you. Sharpening the knife that you already have instead of going to get a new knife is going to cut the bread easier. That way it saves you the time of having to do more outreach, giving out more cold calls, all that unnecessary headache that you don't want. Avoid it. Hire slow, fire fast. This is quite an uncomfortable topic for most people. When they get into business, they can't differentiate the difference between their personal life and their business life. At the end of the day, every decision that you make in the business has to be a positive one. If you hire people just because they're your friends, you're a lot less likely to fire them because you don't want this to interact with your personal life. You don't want any problems, any dramas, but this is the thing. Business is business at the end of the day. You need to make the right decisions for the company that's going to increase your revenue at the end of the year. When your standard is so high, you don't allow any room for any mistakes to happen. Yes, it's human nature to make mistakes, but mistakes can only happen a certain amount of time before it starts to diminish your reputation. If you have a standard, it needs to be met. And if people are not meeting those standards, you have to fire them. As uncomfortable as the conversation is going to be, you just have to do it because business is business. You need to hire properly. You need to do a background check on this person. You need to see the reviews, ask for their catalog, ask for their work that they've done previously. Get a better understanding of this person. See how hard they do work. Are they going to treat this business as their own? Those are the type of people that you want to keep in your business, and to keep them working for you for longer, treat them properly. The last thing you want to do is get someone good on board, mistreat them, and have them leaving off their own back. If you're doing well, you can treat your employees, take them on nice meals, give them boxes of chocolates, flowers, cards every now and then. Allow your working environment to be a good one so people enjoy coming to work and they'll give you the best results. Because the last thing you want to do is be a horrible, stingy boss. When you're starting a business like this, obviously you're going to need money to start with. You're going to need capital. As a general rule of thumb, I would say £10,000 is roughly about how much you would need for each property. This will include the rent, let's say roughly average 1,500. The deposit is going to be another month's rent, so now you're £3,000. This would include your rent. Let's say a rough ballpark figure is 1,500. The deposit is going to be another month's rent, so that's £3,000. Let's say for furnishing the property is going to cost you £4,000. Now that's 3 plus 2, 4, 7. Now with the remaining £3,000, that's going to be spent on photography and rainy day money and any other little miscellaneous expenses you have. So roughly £10,000 is what you're going to need. Now you might be in a position where you don't have £10,000 to your name, which is completely normal. How do you go about getting those funds? If you don't have personal savings, then you could get a loan. As a Muslim myself, I cannot go anywhere near a business loan because it involves riba, which is interest. So how could somebody go about this? Well, they could get a loan from their family or friends. A lot of people around you do have money, you just need to tap into it. If you get good at analyzing data, you could come to people like me and anyone else that is after a property and sell them a deal. Each deal, like I said, can go anywhere between £2,000 to £3,000 that you'll be making every single property. So you can do the maths. A couple of properties down the line and you can have your very own. Finally, if you're struggling that much, you can go to an investor, or you could go to one of your friends and say, hey, do you want to do a joint venture with me? A joint venture is more than one person doing the same business. So for example, I would go to my friend and ask them, do you want to go splits on this? We both invest £5,000 each. You both get 50% profit. This is good for many different reasons. Number one, you don't have to spend that much on your first startup. Number two, you can split the workload between your people. Yes, your profit is going to be a little bit less, but because you have two brains working on the same business, you can generate more revenue by scaling quicker. Don't expect perfection as soon as you start out. Perfection only comes from experience. At the beginning, I was terrible at this game. I didn't know how to communicate with people. I didn't know how to properly systemize anything. But as time goes on, I get better, and so do the profits. When you do make mistakes, it's important that you do learn from them. The best type of people are the type that learn from other people's mistakes. When you see someone else make a mistake, remember that mistake. Make sure you don't do it so you don't have to pay the consequences that they did. Now that I've given you this advice, you're either going to do one of two things. You're going to carry on living your life as if you never watched this video, ignore all of the source I've just given you, miss this opportunity that has changed so many people's lives, or you can actually take action. Today is the day that you change the path that you're already going down and go towards success. Yes, this video gives you a general overview of everything, but now you have the right fundamentals, you have the right solid foundations to be able to carry on with your journey. If you are interested in carry on with this journey, then all you have to do is simply follow me. I give out so much advice, so much free sauce to help you lot with the source and the information that I wish I had at the start. The sourcing is a big thing. That's one thing that a lot of people overlook, and that in itself is a multiple six-figure a year business model. One of the biggest things I regret in my life is not starting sooner, and that's with any business I've ever done. If you do want any advice, literally all you have to do is DM me on Instagram. So I hope with the knowledge that you get from this video, you are able to make the steps into the right direction.